Hi everyone, I'm GhostNote, and in this video I'm going to go over my Dual Strike Pure Fizz Impale champion for Betrayal League. As always, this is not strictly a build guide, though I will cover what I did. It's more of an impression video, specifically from an SSF viewpoint about the skill, the build, all that stuff. So I'll go over the basics, I'll show the character in action in a quick map, and then I'll show what I did in regards to tree, gear, and links, and discuss a few details and possibilities about what I might do differently next time. Dual Strike, it's an old skill. It was first introduced way back in closed beta almost 8 years ago. Crazy. It requires dual wielding, so a weapon in each hand, and combines the damage of both weapons in a single strike. The Might and Influence threshold rule really makes it possible to build around Dual Strike, but it's drop only, so that's a little bit of a bummer for SSF. It's not incredibly uncommon, but I have gone leagues without seeing it, so keep that in mind. It allows Dual Strike to have a 20% chance to do double damage with the main hand portion of the strike, and gives splash damage to the offhand portion of the strike. So, combined with Ancestral Call, turns a really good single target skill into a pretty good AoE clearing skill. Impale and Pure Physical damage are the other notable thing about this build. Pure Physical scaling still lags behind Elemental scaling overall, I think especially in terms of accessibility, but it's caught up a lot and is really doable and feasible with the new crafting options that we got this patch, as well as Impale. Impale is a new debuff added in this patch, and I'll just read you this straight from the wiki because it's a really good description. When a hit implies Impale to a target, 10% of that hit's physical damage is recorded before any damage mitigation is applied. Impale deals the recorded damage to that target each time it is hit. Impale does not have a limited duration. It remains in effect until the maximum number of hits is reached. By default, Impale lasts for 5 hits. A target may have multiple Impale effects on it at once, all of which deal damage to that target each time it is hit. So basically, think of it sort of as a stacking armor penetration debuff. It's not quite that, but it's close. Anyway, anytime you hit the enemy, it records that damage before any of their armor or physical mitigation is taken into effect, which some enemies have a lot of, and then puts a debuff on them. And every time you hit that enemy for the next, at base, 5 hits, you get that bonus damage. Plus, you can stack multiple multiple instances of the debuff on someone. So you're basically getting a stacking damage bonus debuff for physical damage. This build does require some work to make it viable, but a lot of it's crafting, so I guess that's either good news or bad news. It can feel rewarding or frustrating depending on your resources and on how it pans out. Clear is really good, like I said, thanks to Ancestral Call, Might and Influence, and the Hemophilia gloves that I use. And single target burst is also really, really good because Vol Double Strike is good on its own, and we're scaling a lot of the stuff that makes it so good. Anyway, Stain is a little bit tough in mobile, longer fights due to the reliance on Impale and having to stack it. And just because you're melee, you have to wait sometimes to get your damage in. Once properly geared, linked, and leveled, though, this could definitely take on all content. I did everything else and came really close to killing Uber Elder. I'm not used to the fight as melee. I'm not the best player at it, but with a few integral pieces that I couldn't get my hands on to up my DPS and help push it faster, it's completely doable. I'm sure I could have done it. As far as leveling goes, it's really simple. You get Dual Strike immediately after killing Hillock in Act 1. Then you get Ancestral Call from the Mercy mission quest in Act 1 as well. So right away you've got your AoE going on, and you can link it with whatever that gives you extra damage until you decide to focus on pure physical damage. So added fire, chance to bleed you get early, maim, ruthless, lots of good stuff, added lightning, added cold, all that stuff. You can just anything to up your damage as you're leveling until you start to focus on that pure fizz damage. Getting Might and Influence socketed early will definitely help, because then you're getting that splash, so extra clear plus some extra single target on your main hand. But overall, it's a fairly standard leveling experience for melee. Just change your weapons every 10 levels or so. Make sure everything's up to date. You'll be fine. So without further ado, I'm just going to go into a quick race course map and just show you what things look like. I'm not going to clear the map or anything like that. I just want to give you an impression of how clear looks and how fun it feels to just zoom around. So I activate Blood Rage, get my Ice Golem out, then you just go around, you rolling blades into stuff, get your Fortify, and you're just blowing stuff up with Hemophilia, so you can see stuff shredding. I don't know if you'll be able to notice it, but Impale looks like a bunch of spikes in things. I'm killing things pretty fast here, so it's kind of hard to tell. But that's what Impale will look like. It looks like a bunch of metal spikes and just kind of embedded in things. That's how you know you've got an Impale on something. With most of these one-hit things, you're not really seeing it. But you can see it occasionally, especially on bigger targets, like something like Kataba. If you're fighting it, you can see it really easily. So we get over here to a boss, put up a totem, pop your 2 Vol double strikes. Whoops, go in for the kill, and you can just see it just shred stuff, right? The Vol double strike is crazy. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. And that's more or less how it plays out. It's great. You can see my 50 stacks of Impale there, or my 50 stacks of Dread Banner, which is allowing me to Impale more frequently. That is more or less the whole playstyle, though. And it's pretty fun. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy, pretty quick, and it feels satisfying to have those blood explosions going off. So let's go over the tree first, I suppose. We'll start with the Ascendancy. So I went the standard Conqueror, Worthy Foe, Champion thing, so that you've got a 100% chance to hit because you've taunted stuff. Really good, helps a lot with crit. And then I went with Unstoppable Hero, mainly for the can't be stunned while you have Fortify. Really good, and I have Fortify a lot because I'm always whirling bladesing into things. Whirling bladesing, yeah, makes sense. The big thing, or the notable thing here, I guess, is Master of Metal. It's the new node that they added this patch, which gives you a 20% chance to impale enemies on hit with attacks, which when paired with Dread Banner gives me a 40% chance overall. Impales you inflict last 2 additional hits, so you've got a total of 7 hits with Impale, each Impale. If you've impaled an enemy recently, you and nearby allies have increased armor. That's good. Good defenses, especially paired with that Fortify, which also gives you the same thing. And you and nearby allies deal 4 to 8 added physical damage for each impale on the enemy. That's really good, of course, because you're scaling Fizz. And the more that you can stack on an enemy, the more you're doing. As far as the tree goes, it's a pretty standard duelist melee tree. I'm getting all the dual wield stuff here. Dervish, Ambidexterity. Grabbing all that stuff. Grab a jewel socket there. Come up here, grab the Twin Terrors for more crit while dual wielding. Crit here. I grabbed this jewel socket as soon as I could for Might and Influence. This is really, well, one of 2 places on this tree that you can actually socket it. Be careful you don't socket it here. I used to think this had 40 dex in the radius. It doesn't. It only has 30. I had it socketed there for a while, and that was not good. Eventually I wised up, put it here, and that was good. So I'm grabbing life anywhere I can. You can see I grabbed this whole wheel because I was just starved for life. I come up, I grab the claw nodes, more claw nodes. I came up here and grabbed this jewel socket because I needed a little bit more int to wield claws. Same with this, but you also get more claw damage here. Life, crit, all the basic stuff. Nothing too crazy. The one thing I do want to highlight is Master of the Arena. In addition to the life regen for Blood Rage and the extra damage, that extra attack range is really good because Dual Strike is melee. I think it's +2 to attack range at level 20 and +3 at level 21. So you're in close. So having a little extra attack range is good quality of life. I'll look at my gearing here next. I'll start with, what will I start with? I'll start with a claw because I want to talk about how I crafted it. Mathel did a really good video about crafting these claws, so if you're looking to know a little bit more about it, a little more in-depth, I would highly suggest checking out his vid on it. But what I did basically is I took an eye level 85 Imperial Claw. It doesn't have to be 85, but get it as high as you can. I would say 83 plus for the highest rolls. And I used a Perfect Fossil from Delve to get as close to 30% quality as I could, just any old rolls. I think I got it to 29 on this one, but get it as close as you can. And then I scoured it, so it was basically just a white Imperial Claw with really close to 30% quality. After that, I transmuted and then alt and ogged it until I got a hybrid increased physical damage, accuracy, and attack speed roll. Now, I set limits for myself on this. I said I wouldn't go lower than Tier 4 hybrid and Tier 3 attack speed. I happen to get lucky and get Tier 1 attack speed, still only Tier 4 hybrid. That can go up another at least 20% as far as the hybrid roll goes, so you get more increased physical damage. Anything lower than those, though, I think you're getting into the territory where it's probably not worth it to spend the currency that you've got to make this. Anyway, once you've got that claw with 2 mods on it, the 2 blue, darker blue ones that you see there, You could imprint that with a beast from Bestiary, where you can create an imprint of a magic item and save that as many times as you want, so you can restore it if the rest of the crafting doesn't go to your liking. I didn't happen to do that because I didn't have them at the time, I don't think. So what I did after I had the blue item with 2 mods on it is I regaled it. If you get a good mod, keep it, obviously. I didn't, so what I did was use an Orb of Annulment to get rid of that bad mod. I got lucky, it was a 1 in 3 chance, and I did get rid of that bad one. If not, that's where that restoration of the imprint would come in handy, otherwise you'd have to start the process over. Once I did that, though, I can have multiple crafted modifiers, and then increase physical damage. The highest tier you can get now is quite high. Added flat physical damage, again, pretty respectable that you can get now. And then increase critical strike chance and more quality. So you've got like this 47% quality claw with all kinds of fizz damage. Ends up being an over 400 DPS claw. Really, really good. Very fast. Very great. One thing I do want to mention is if you happen to get a fractured fossil, you could then create a mirrored copy of that claw. So make sure you have the links and colors that you would want first for your main hand, or for your offhand. Then mirror it, and you get another claw. I didn't do that, even though I had this. Probably should have. I did find this claw, though, and crafted, added fizz onto it, and it's a really good claw, so I just decided to use this instead. It actually is what inspired me to make the build. Anyway, that's claw crafting in a nutshell. Check out Mathel's video if you want to see more. Rest of the gear, I crafted this with a Delve Fossil so I could have the increased physical damage taken for nearby enemies. Maybe not strictly necessary, probably could have gone for more life and resists. Whatever. Ignore the sweet knockback chance. Didn't get the enchant I wanted. Gloves are the hemophilias. Again, increased physical, chance to cause bleeding, and the bleed explosion, which is really nice for clear. I corrupted these, didn't get what I wanted, was looking for increased life. Oh well. Belt of the Deceiver I used for Intimidate. I did corrupt this one with increased max life, so I thought, hey, why not use this? It has increased global fizz damage. Pretty good overall, really. And it gives you the Intimidate, if I didn't mention that. Boots are pretty standard, although I did craft some fun stuff on it. The enchant is really good for clearing, increased attack and cast speed, you whirl around even faster, and then movement speed and chance to gain onslaught for 4 seconds on kill, again, just helps with clear. Really fun crafting options this league. Let's look at the chest now. This chest, I crafted it with a Delve Fossil, again, to get socketed gems are supported by level 1 Maim. That's really good. It helps scale that fizz even more. I would have loved, this is an Elder chest, I would have loved to have also gotten the supported attacks, have increased crit chance mod on it, because that would have upped my base crit, would have made the skill field just a little smoother clearing. Not the end of the world, but it'd be a good thing to get if you can. This is a pretty chest. I didn't have a lot of things left over after I crafted my claws. Jewelry just has flat fizz on it, and whatever else I could get resists. These would be better as diamond or steel rings, but I needed the resists. SSF, by the way. Just couldn't get the right jewelry to be able to use these steel rings, which would have been a boost. I think that's about it for gearing. Flasks are just all kinds of utility flasks. I have a granite, I have a diamond, I have a silver, and I have a stibnite, so a good mix of offense and defense. And then, of course, I've got all the utility heat, warding, grounding, and dousing. I couldn't find a Lion's Roar at all this league. Still haven't found one. I would replace this with a Lion's Roar if I could. Would be a massive DPS increase. Then, of course, a Divine Life Flask of Staunching for those bleeds. I think that's about it for what I wanted to talk about for gearing. Oh, yeah, I'll show you what... I wanted to show you... Sorry, I did want to show you one more thing. Tomb Fists. I didn't use these because I wanted to use hemophilias, but you could potentially swap these in on single targets and then swap in a Stygian Vice here on single target, and you'd have 2 to 3 more Abyssal Jewels for even more damage. If you were going to do that, in this case, I would swap out... Oh, I gotta go over my links. I would swap out Whirling Blades... I would swap out Blood Magic here and put Whirling Blades, Faster Attacks, Fortify in a 1-socket pair of Tomb Fists. If I had a 2-socket pair of Tomb Fists, I would probably just put my movement setup that I talked about in my weapon, and then drop one of these 2, probably Ancestral Protector, or more likely Faster Casting, and just have Ancestral Protector, Summon Ice Golem in the Tomb Fists. You would get more damage out of that and have 2 to 3 extra Abyssal Jewels. Really, really good. Link-wise, let's go over links. So I'll start with the main skill. You've got Dual Strike, linked with Ancestral Call, Multi-Strike, Melee Fizz, Brutality, and Ruthless. All good things that scale the damage. And on single target, I would swap out, where are you, Ancestral Call for Chance to Bleed for even more single target, and that extra Chance to Bleed for Vol Double Strike, Brutality, Melee Fizz, and Bloodlust, which I don't get to use very often. So it's a really good multiplier for Pure Fizz. I wanted to use it, so I am bleeding, but if you aren't bleeding, you could swap in something like, say, Ruthless. Over here, you've got a cast when damage taken and an Immortal Call. Blood Rage is in there. It's linked, but it's actually manually applied because it's too high level for this, and I wanted to manually apply it. Here I've got Faster Casting, Ancestral Protector, Summon Ice Golem, all just sort of ancillary stuff, which helps some. You could probably get rid of some of these and not be hurting yourselves too bad. I would keep the Summon Ice Golem as it's, the extra crit is always good. My movement skill, like I said, was Rolling Blades, Fortify, Blood Magic, and Faster Attacks. You could probably drop Blood Magic on single targets. Just be aware that you won't be able to whirl indefinitely without Blood Magic. And then in my boots, I have a Dread Banner, which, combined with the Champion, gives me 40% chance to impale enemies on hit with attacks, and increased Impale effect, which is good, helps scale that. And then it's got a bunch of stuff for the banner stuff. You can read all that. It's got nearby enemies have less accuracy rating, which is good, extra defenses. And you can place it for a little more Impale effect because the banner does more when it's placed. So you get it to 50 stacks and then put it down, and then you can pick it back up and keep ramping it up. It's also got that Fortify on placing it. Just okay. And then I've got Blasphemy, Assassin's Mark. Would have loved to get a Curse on Hit Ring and then use a Aspect of the Cat. That would have been ideal. Couldn't find a tiger. Couldn't find a piece of gear with Aspect of the Cat on it that made sense to use. Feels bad. And finally, Herald of Purity for that extra added flat fizz. I think that's about it as far as gearing and stuff goes. So I'll just briefly touch on map. Oh, right. Pantheon. I use Soul of Kali because I don't need the stun and block recovery from Brine King. You get some good stuff, good defenses, and also you get that 50% increased recovery of life and energy shield if you stop taking damage over time, which happens quite a bit with Blood Rage and then Immortal Call popping off. So just keep that in mind. That's good. Then I use Rislatha. I like the flasks. I like having more recovery from my flasks. Your mileage may vary. Dealer's choice there. Bandits, Alira, obviously. Crit multiplier. Good stuff. Map mods. So no leech is not really doable unless you have a good Gemini Claw that you can sub in for that instant mana return. Otherwise, you're just going to run out of mana, obviously. Fizz Reflect, obviously undoable unless you've got the Sextant up that allows you to run maps with Reflect on them. No regen is fine, but that plus vulnerability is probably better as a no blood rage map, i.e. just don't trigger blood rage. I've done it. It's fine. You can use your warding flask to mitigate that some. It just gets a little uncomfortable. Keep it in mind if you see that combo together. Positives of the build, it's fast. It's got really respectable clear. Whirling Blades with a fastest attack speed still feels great. You can't clear gaps. Do keep that in mind. The bleed explosions also feel great on Hemophilia, so I do recommend those for clearing. I've tried it with and without, and it does feel better with. Single target burst with Vol Double Strike is really, really good, like I said, because Vol Double Strike, plus we're scaling all the stuff that helps Vol Double Strike. There's no absolute need for unique flasks. I did mention Lion's Roar, and I would have liked to have one, but I made do without it, so it provides a lot of flexibility and utility, and really that's the only unique flask I would highly recommend, so you've still got quite a bit of flexibility in your flask choices there. And last but not least, it's really fun to use an old skill in a bit of a new way. I mean, it's still the same skill, it's still used basically the same way, but you've got that added Impale, some extra incentive, I guess, to build this way, and it was just kind of fun to dig it out of the toy chest and play around with it. As far as negative goes, like I said, sustained damage on longer fights is annoying due to the extreme melee nature of the skill and the fact that you need to stack Impale for maximum effect. So if you're moving around a lot, it's difficult to do. It was really noticeable on the Uber Elder fight. Getting a respectable life pool and defenses while also nurturing your offenses is a really tough tightrope to walk in SSF, I found. Inevitably, things like those steel rings or diamond rings get left out, which is unfortunate. You can't really always include everything you want unless you've got perfect rolls on stuff. So just keep that in mind. You've got to do that balancing act. There's a lot of crafting required, especially with weapons, and you've got limited resources. Obviously, in SSF, you can't just buy more stuff, so do keep that in mind. You'll probably need a decent cache of things if you want to craft your own stuff, unless you get really lucky. And it's still probably not quite as good or as easy to scale Fizz as it is Elemental, although the gap has closed significantly, so that's good. It's mostly accessibility. You can get a lot more accessibility in terms of scaling Elemental than you can physical. Like, you have to craft these things and really push to get this physical scaling. But the gap has closed, so that's a good thing. As far as what I'd do different for this build, I think I would try and get more crit for more consistent damage, either by using maybe the increased crit strikes gem, probably the chest piece craft that I talked about for an elder chest, an aspect of the friggin' cat. I have not seen a tiger or a piece that was good enough to use, because then I'd be able to put curse on hit on the ring for Assassin's Mark. Be really good. Would definitely up damage and give you some defenses too. Steel or diamond rings, like I mentioned, would be great, but resists would prove really troublesome to get then, I think, especially if you were also going for that Assassin's Mark curse on hit thing. Lion's Roar Flask would have been amazing. I still can't believe I haven't seen one. I would have replaced the Granite of Dousing in my first slot there with it if I had gotten one. It would be a massive DPS increase. I was really sad I didn't get one, because I usually get at least 5. I would probably try and craft an even better claw. Like I said, mine still had room for improvement. And then if I did craft a really crazy one, I would mirror it with that Fractured Fossil and have 2 amazing claws. That would increase DPS. The last possibility is that you could try a Gladiator for the built-in bleed explosions from that Ascendancy, and then you could switch over to a Tomb Fist and a Stygian Vice full time. The thing with that is that you would need even better gear to make up for that lack of hit chance that you wouldn't have from Champion, and you would also need to find some stun avoidance somewhere, because you'd lose that in Champion as well. In conclusion, this is a pretty fun project to see how much I could get out of pure physical scaling and SSF crafting. It was really informative and fun and just rewarding for me to be able to craft a lot of my own gear and do stuff like that. It was a fun adventure. It was a project, but it was fun. It's definitely not a bad build. It was actually a pleasant surprise how good it was, but pure Fizz probably still needs a little bit more support to push it closer to LE conversion, especially in terms of accessibility. It's just a lot easier to get the weapons and the gear that you need for LE conversion stuff to really scale it. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I hope it was informative. Subscribe if you liked it and you want to see more like it. I will link my paste bin and my passive tree in the description below if you want to check those out to see exactly what I did and a more in-depth view of it. Feel free to come check out my stream. I'm Ghost Note Live on Twitch. I'll link that below as well, and I'm usually streaming in the evenings on weekdays. So yeah, feel free to come say hi and tell me what you think. And finally, leave your comments or questions below, and hopefully we'll have a discussion about the build. Anything you might think I could have done different, any criticisms, whatever. Just go ahead and leave them. That's about it for me, guys. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.